The autumn sun hung high over Portland, Oregon, painting the Rodriguez family's backyard in shades of gold and amber. It was the kind of perfect October day that made people forget winter was coming. The air crisp but warm, the sky impossibly blue, and the leaves just beginning their annual transformation into a carnival of color. Maria Rodriguez wiped her hands on her apron, surveying the scene with quiet satisfaction. 23 people had gathered for the afternoon barbecue, their laughter and chatter creating a symphony of family warmth. Her brother manned the grill, smoke rising in lazy spirals. Her mother sat in a lawn chair, holding court with the aunties. Children darted between tables, their shrieks of joy punctuating the steady hum of conversation. And there, in the center of it all, was Emma. 3-year-old Emma Rodriguez was the star of every gathering, whether she meant to be or not. With her wild dark curls, gap-toothed smile, and the kind of fearless energy that made other parents exhausted just watching her, Emma commanded attention. Today she wore her prized possession, a pink princess dress with layers of tulle that made satisfying swishing sounds when she twirled. In her small fist, she clutched a pink balloon, guarding it like treasure. "Mommy, Mommy, watch me spin," Emma called out, already rotating before Maria could respond. Maria laughed, her heart swelling with that particular joy only mothers know. "I see you, Mija, you're beautiful." Emma beamed and twirled faster, the dress billowing around her legs. The balloon bobbed above her head like a pink moon. "Maria, where did you put the cake?" her sister-in-law called from the kitchen door. "Oh, it's in the garage fridge. I'll grab it." Maria glanced at Emma one more time, still spinning, still laughing, perfectly safe in a yard full of family. She turned toward the house. It took 30 seconds, maybe 45 at most. Maria maneuvered through the crowded kitchen, dodging her teenage nephew who was raiding the chip bowl, and opened the garage door. The birthday cake sat on the second shelf, chocolate with pink frosting, decorated with edible glitter that had cost extra but was worth it for Emma's inevitable squeals of delight. Maria carefully lifted it, checking that the 3 candles were still standing straight. She backed through the door, cake held high, already imagining Emma's face when she saw it. "Okay, everyone, it's time for," the words died in her throat. The pink balloon drifted alone near the back fence gate. No small hand held its string. The gate that was always latched, stood wide open, swaying slightly in the breeze. "Emma," Maria's voice came out strangled, uncertain. She set the cake down hard on the nearest table. "Emma, where are you?" The chatter continued around her. Nobody had noticed yet. "Emma," the second call was a scream that silenced every conversation in the yard. Carlos Rodriguez dropped the volleyball he'd been tossing with the kids and ran to his wife. What's wrong?" "She's gone. Emma's gone, the gate," Maria pointed with a shaking hand. Time fractured into chaos. Carlos sprinted to the gate and through it, screaming his daughter's name into the quiet suburban street. Maria's brother vaulted the fence into the neighbor's yard. The aunties scattered in different directions, calling Emma. "Emma, baby, where are you?" The teenage cousins grabbed their phones, using flashlight apps even though it was still daylight, checking under cars, behind bushes, anywhere a small child might hide. Maria stood frozen in the center of the yard, the pink balloon dancing mockingly at her feet. This couldn't be happening. This was impossible. Emma had been right there, right there. She'd only looked away for seconds. "Someone call 911, Carlos's voice carried from the street, raw with panic. Maria's hands shook so violently she could barely unlock her phone. The numbers blurred. She dialed twice before getting it right. 911, what's your emergency?" "My daughter, my baby. She's 3 years old and she's gone. She was in our backyard and now she's gone. The gate was open." The words tumbled out in a breathless rush. "Ma'am, I need you to take a breath. What's your address?" Maria rattled off the address, her mind screaming at her to stop talking and go search, search, search. "Officers are being dispatched now. How long has she been missing?" I don't know, 5 minutes, 10. I only went inside for a second, a sob choked her. Please, it's getting cold, she's only wearing a dress, please hurry. Ma'am, I'm also dispatching our K-9 unit. They specialize in finding missing children. Can you get me an article of your daughter's clothing? Something she's worn recently. K-9 unit, dogs, search and rescue. The words felt surreal, like dialogue from a television show. This wasn't supposed to happen to them. They were careful. They were good parents. They watched their daughter. Maria ran into the house, her sister-in-law close behind. In Emma's room, she grabbed the small blanket from the unmade toddler bed, the yellow one with giraffes that Emma had slept with every night since she was born. It still smelled like her, that particular little kid scent of shampoo and sunshine. When Maria returned to the yard, the scene had transformed into something from a nightmare. Neighbors she barely knew were searching their properties. Someone had printed a photo of Emma from Facebook and was making copies. The street was filling with people, all calling Emma's name in an eerie, desperate chorus. Carlos returned, his face gray. Nothing, nobody's seen her, it's like she vanished. The autumn afternoon suddenly felt colder. The shadows seemed longer, and somewhere out there, alone and possibly terrified, was their little girl. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Maria clutched Emma's blanket to her chest and prayed to every saint she could remember. The birthday cake sat abandoned on the table, its pink frosting gleaming in the sun, the 3 candles waiting to be lit for a celebration that might never come. Officer Jake Morrison was 3 bites into his turkey sandwich when the radio crackled to life with a tone that made his stomach drop. Every cop knew that sound, the dispatcher's voice stripped of its usual calm, urgency bleeding through every syllable. All available units, we have a missing 3-year-old female, Emma Rodriguez, last seen at 2847 Maple Street. Pink dress, dark hair, approximately 3 feet tall. Disappeared from family gathering approximately 15 minutes ago. K-9 units respond immediately. Morrison's sandwich hit the dashboard. In the passenger seat of the modified SUV, Rex's ears shot forward. The 5-year-old German shepherd knew what that tone meant before Morrison even reached for his radio. Unit 47 responding. ETA 7 minutes, Morrison said, already pulling out of the parking lot, lights blazing. Rex whined, low and urgent, his brown eyes fixed on Morrison's face. I know, buddy, I know. Morrison's foot pressed harder on the accelerator. They'd been partners for 5 years, 60 months of calls that ranged from tedious to terrifying. Rex had tracked down escaped prisoners, located evidence in drug cases, and found missing hikers. But it was the children that got to both of them. The missing kids, the runaways, the little ones who wandered away from camping trips or playgrounds. 12 searches, 12 successful finds. But Morrison knew the statistics that haunted every K-9 handler. In child abduction cases, the first 3 hours were critical. After that, the odds dropped catastrophically. 15 minutes gone already. Morrison's hands tightened on the wheel as residential streets blurred past. Rex paced in the back compartment, his nails clicking on the metal floor, his breathing coming in quick, focused huffs. The dog wasn't nervous. He was preparing. Morrison had seen it dozens of times. Rex was mentally shifting into work mode, his extraordinary brain already calibrating for the task ahead. The Rodriguez house appeared around the corner and Morrison's heart sank at the scene. Organized chaos, the worst kind. At least 40 people swarmed the street. Some searched frantically. Others stood in clusters, phones pressed to their ears. A few just stood frozen, shock written across their faces. Morrison parked and quickly assessed the situation. An officer he recognized, Patterson, was trying to establish a perimeter, but civilians kept crossing it. This was the problem with missing child cases in residential areas. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone became a potential contamination of the scent trail. Patterson, Morrison called, jogging over with Rex on a short lead. I need this crowd pushed back. Now, We've got maybe 20 minutes before dark, and every person here is laying down scent that can throw Rex off." Patterson nodded grimly and started barking orders. A Latina woman broke from the crowd, her face streaked with tears, mascara creating dark rivers down her cheeks. She clutched a yellow blanket to her chest like a life preserver. "Are you the K-9 officer? Please, please, you have to find her. She's only 3. She's afraid of the dark. It's getting cold." The words dissolved into sobs. Morrison gently took her shoulders. He'd done this too many times, knew exactly what to say and how to say it. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Morrison. This is Rex. We're going to find your daughter, but I need you to help me. Can you do that?" Maria Rodriguez nodded frantically, wiping at her eyes. "Is this something Emma wore recently?" "Her blanket, she sleeps with it every night. It's her favorite." "Perfect." Morrison took the blanket, holding Maria's gaze. "Rex has found 12 missing people. He's the best at what he does. But I need you to trust us and let us work. Can you do that?" Another nod, though her hands shook violently. Morrison turned to Patterson. "Get me a description and any details about how she disappeared." 3 minutes later, Morrison had what he needed. Emma had vanished while her mother stepped inside. The gate was found open. No witnesses. No sounds of a struggle, just gone. Morrison knelt beside Rex, holding the blanket to the dog's nose. "Rex, such," the German command for search. Rex buried his muzzle in the blanket, his nostrils flaring as he drew in deep breaths. His entire body quivered with concentration. Morrison watched the transformation, his partner shifting from pet to precision instrument. Rex's tail went rigid. His ears flattened slightly. Every muscle tensed. Then Rex moved. The dog pulled Morrison directly to the backyard gate, nose skimming the ground, working in tight S patterns. He paused at the gate, circled once, then bolted into the street. Morrison ran behind him, his radio bouncing against his hip. "Rex has the scent, moving east on Maple." The trail led them past 3 houses, where Rex paused at a driveway, circled twice, then continued. Morrison's trained eye read every movement. The pauses meant the scent pooled there. Emma had stopped or slowed. The rapid forward movement meant she'd been moving quickly or been carried. His gut twisted. Carried wasn't good. They covered 2 blocks. The neighborhood gave way to a park entrance. Rex didn't hesitate, plunging into the wooded trail. Morrison's radio crackled. "Morrison, what's your location?" "Entering Hoyt Arboretum from the southeast entrance. Rex is tracking strong." A pause, then, "Jake, that's 2 miles of dense forest. We're losing daylight." Morrison didn't respond. He didn't need to. Rex had the scent, and where Rex led, Morrison followed. The trail wound deeper into the woods. The autumn afternoon sun, so beautiful an hour ago, now seemed to be racing toward the horizon with malicious intent. Shadows lengthened between the trees. The temperature dropped perceptibly. Rex moved with absolute certainty, weaving between massive Douglas firs and around fallen logs. His nose never lifted. Morrison's flashlight beam began to matter more than the fatting daylight. They'd been tracking for 40 minutes when Rex's behavior changed. The dog's tail shot straight up. His ears pricked forward. And then he was running, a full sprint that had Morrison's legs burning as he fought to keep up. Rex's bark erupted through the forest, sharp and insistent. Not his alert bark, his found bark. "Rex, wait." The dog disappeared over a small rise. Morrison scrambled after him, his flashlight beam swinging wildly. And then he saw it, a steep ravine, maybe 15 feet deep, choked with fallen timber and autumn leaves. Rex stood at the edge, barking furiously, his tail wagging so hard his entire back end shook. Morrison's flashlight found her. Emma Rodriguez lay wedged between 2 massive logs at the bottom of the ravine, curled into a tiny ball. Her pink princess dress was torn and muddy. Her lips had a blue tinge that made Morrison's blood run cold. but her chest was moving. Shallow breaths, but breaths nonetheless. I've got her," Morrison screamed into his radio. "Southeast section of Hoyt Arboretum, approximately quarter-mile from the main trail. She's alive but hypothermic. I need paramedics now." Morrison scrambled down the ravine, Rex right beside him, whining softly now. Morrison shed his jacket, wrapping it around Emma's tiny, cold body. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, confused. "Emma, sweetie, I'm Officer Morrison. Your mommy sent me to find you." At the word mommy, Emma's eyes filled with tears. Rex pushed his nose gently against her cheek, a soft whine escaping his throat. Emma's small, cold hand reached up and touched Rex's fur. "Nice doggy," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Morrison lifted her carefully, cradling her against his chest. "Yeah, kiddo, the nicest doggy in the whole world." The fluorescent lights of Dornbecher Children's Hospital's emergency room hummed with an eerie, sterile quality that Maria Rodriguez would remember for the rest of her life. She sat in a plastic chair outside the trauma bay, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white, Carlos's arm around her shoulders the only thing keeping her from completely falling apart. Through the small window in the door she could see flashes of movement, nurses in colorful scrubs, doctors in white coats, all surrounding a gurney that held her baby girl. Too many people, too much urgency. The words she'd overheard kept echoing in her mind. Severe hypothermia, possible frostbite, dangerously low core temperature. "Mrs. Rodriguez," a doctor emerged, pulling off latex gloves. She was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, the pediatric emergency physician. Emma is stable, but we're moving her to the intensive care unit." "Intensive care?" Carlos's voice cracked. Will she?" Her core body temperature was 89 degrees when she arrived. Normal is 98.6. That's critically low. Dr. Chen sat down beside them, her voice gentle but direct. "We're warming her slowly, carefully. Too fast can cause cardiac complications. She's also severely dehydrated. But she's young, she's strong, and Officer Morrison found her in time. Those are all things in her favor." Maria's throat tightened. "Can I see her?" "Soon. We need to get her stable first. But Mrs. Rodriguez," Dr. Chen paused, choosing her words carefully. "When Emma is conscious and able to communicate, there are going to be a lot of people who need to talk to her. The police, child services, possibly FBI if this becomes a federal case. I want you to be prepared for that." "FBI," the word felt foreign in Maria's mouth. "Why would?" "Because your daughter didn't wander off," Dr. Chen said quietly. "The paramedics reported she was found 2 miles from your home, in a ravine, in an area a 3-year-old couldn't possibly reach on her own. Someone took her there." The hospital corridor tilted. Carlos caught Maria before she slid from the chair. 3 days blurred together in a haze of beeping monitors, hushed conversations, and Maria's constant vigil beside Emma's hospital bed. The hypothermia had resolved. The dehydration was corrected. Physically, Emma was recovering with the remarkable resilience of childhood. But something was wrong. Emma, who normally chattered non-stop about butterflies and princesses and what she wanted for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, barely spoke. She stared at the ceiling or out the window, her small hands clutching the yellow giraffe blanket that Officer Morrison had made sure arrived with her at the hospital. When nurses tried to engage her with toys or cartoons, Emma would turn away. Dr. Lisa Patel, the child psychologist assigned to Emma's case, sat in the corner of the room during her 3rd evaluation, her notebook balanced on her knee. She'd been watching Emma color for 20 minutes, the same picture, over and over. A stick figure, trees, and a tall, dark shadow with no face. "Emma, sweetie," Dr. Patel said softly, "can you tell me about your picture?" Emma's crayon paused. For a moment, Dr. Patel thought she wouldn't respond. Then, in a voice so small it was almost inaudible, "The man." Maria leaned forward from her chair. "What man, baby?" Emma drew another dark shadow, pressing so hard the crayon snapped. The man who took me for a walk. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dr. Patel kept her voice carefully neutral. Did you know this man? Emma shook her head, still coloring. He said he knew Mommy. He said Mommy said it was okay. He had candy. Maria's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Carlos stood abruptly and walked to the window, his shoulders shaking. Where did the man take you? Dr. Patel asked. For a walk, a long walk. He said we were going to see something special. Emma's crayon moved faster, more agitated. But then it was just trees, and he walked fast, too fast, my feet hurt. Did the man say anything else? Emma's crayon stopped. She looked up at Dr. Patel with eyes far too old for a 3-year-old face. He said the woods keep secrets. He said if I told, bad things would happen. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He said monsters live in the woods and they eat little girls who tell. Dr. Patel's professional composure cracked for just a second. She scribbled notes rapidly. But then what happened, Emma? He heard people calling my name, and he got scared. He said he had to go. He said stay here and be quiet and he would come back. Emma's eyes filled with tears. But he didn't come back. It got dark. It got cold. I called for Mommy, but nobody came. I thought the monsters would get me. Maria was openly weeping now, clutching her daughter's hand. But someone did come, Dr. Patel prompted gently. For the first time in 3 days, Emma smiled, just a little. The dog, I heard barking, and then the nice police dog found me. He was warm, he licked my face. He wasn't a monster. Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to the doctor, stood in the hospital corridor reviewing security footage on her tablet. She was a 15-year veteran of Portland PD's Crimes Against Children unit, and this case made her blood boil. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Time stamp, 2:47 p.m. the day of Emma's disappearance. A man in a maintenance uniform walking down the sidewalk near the Rodriguez home. At 2:51 p.m. the same man walking in the opposite direction, a small figure in pink beside him, her hand in his. Chen zoomed in on the man's face, ran it through facial recognition, and got a hit within 30 seconds. Leonard Voss, age 52, current address, an apartment complex 3 blocks from the Rodriguez home. Current employment, maintenance worker for Pacific Property Management, which serviced several properties in the neighborhood, including one directly adjacent to the Rodriguez house. Chen's search deepened. Leonard Voss had a record not extensive but damning. 15 years ago in Boise, Idaho, arrested for unlawful restraint of a minor. The case had been plea bargained down, Voss claiming it was a misunderstanding that the girl had asked him for help finding her mother. 6 months probation, mandatory counseling, a slap on the wrist. Chen pulled up Voss's work van registration and cross-referenced it with traffic cameras. There, headed toward Hoyt Arboretum at 3:02 p.m. on the day Emma disappeared. She called for a forensics team immediately. The forensics report came back within 48 hours. In Leonard Voss's work van, 3 strands of hair consistent with Emma Rodriguez's DNA profile, fibers from a pink dress matching the one Emma wore, and on the passenger seat, a partial fingerprint, small, child-sized. But it was the final piece of evidence that sealed it. Voss's DNA, found on Emma's jacket collar, consistent with someone grabbing or carrying the garment. Chen stood in the observation room of Portland PD's interview room, watching Leonard Voss through the one-way mirror. He sat calmly at the metal table, hands folded, a slight smile playing at his lips. His public defender, a harried-looking woman named Jennifer Walsh, whispered urgently in his ear. Chen's partner, Detective Marcus Webb, stood beside her. Guy's too calm. He knows we have him, but he's not even sweating. Because he thinks he has a story, Chen said coldly. They always do. She entered the interview room. Voss looked up, his smile widening. Mr. Voss, I'm Detective Chen. We need to talk about October 15th, about a little girl named Emma Rodriguez. Tragic situation, Voss said smoothly. I heard she was found safe, thank God. Where were you between 2 and 4 p.m. that day? Working. I had several properties to check on the maintenance schedule, including properties near Maple Street. A pause, barely perceptible, but Chen caught it. Possibly. I cover a large area. Chen slid a photo across the table, the security footage, enhanced, showing Voss walking with Emma. That's you, that's Emma. Want to revise your statement? Voss's smile never wavered, but his knuckles whitened. I'd like to consult with my attorney. As Chen left the room, her phone buzzed. A text from the prosecutor's office, charging him tomorrow, kidnapping in the first degree, make it airtight. Chen looked through the window at Emma's hospital room, where the little girl slept fitfully, her mother holding her hand. Oh, it's airtight, Chen muttered. That bastard isn't walking away from this. Leonard Voss's apartment was unremarkable from the outside, Unit 3B in a tired-looking complex with peeling paint and a parking lot full of potholes. But Detective Sarah Chen had learned long ago that monsters rarely advertised themselves. They lived among regular people, wore ordinary faces, went to work, paid their bills, and smiled at neighbors who never suspected the darkness lurking beneath. The warrant had come through at dawn. Chen led a team of 6 officers, battering ram ready, though Voss answered the door after the second knock, still in pajamas, his expression one of mild annoyance rather than fear. Mr. Voss, we have a warrant for your arrest and to search these premises. This is harassment, Voss said calmly, even as Officer Patterson turned him around and cuffed him. I told you that child followed me. I was trying to help. Save it for your lawyer, Chen said, pushing past him into the apartment. What they found made Chen's stomach turn. The apartment was obsessively neat, military corners on the bed, dishes put away, floor vacuumed. But in the bedroom closet, hidden behind winter coats, was a cardboard box. Inside, newspaper clippings about missing children cases from across the Pacific Northwest. Some dated back 20 years. Photos torn from school yearbooks, and a spiral notebook filled with handwritten entries. Chen pulled on latex gloves and opened the notebook. Her blood ran cold. October 12 saw the Rodriguez girl playing in yard, pink dress, approximately 3 years old, birthday party scheduled for the 15th, large crowd, good opportunity, parents distracted. There were other entries, other children, other observations. Some had dates and locations, others were just descriptions with question marks. Chen, you need to see this, called the forensic tech from the van. The interior of Voss's work van was being processed inch by inch under UV light. Beyond the hair and fibers already cataloged, they found more. A child's pink hair ribbon stuck in the seat track, muddy shoe prints on the rubber mat, size toddler 6, and scratched into the interior door panel, barely visible, were 2 words etched with what looked like a tiny fingernail. Help me. Chen photographed everything, her hands steady despite the rage building in her chest. This wasn't Voss's first time. She knew it. The question was, how many others had there been? At Portland Police Headquarters, Voss sat in the interview room, his public defender Jennifer Walsh beside him. Walsh was a veteran, 20 years of defending the guilty, the innocent, and everyone in between. She'd seen it all, or thought she had, but even she looked uncomfortable sitting next to her client. Chen entered with a thick file folder and a tablet. She sat down across from Voss, studying his face. He was average in every way, average height, average build, thinning brown hair, forgettable features. The kind of man you'd pass on the street without a second glance. That was exactly what made him dangerous. Let's talk about Idaho, Leonard. Voss's expression didn't change. Ancient history, I was cleared. Cleared? You pleaded guilty to unlawful restraint. A 9-year-old girl, Emily Patterson. You grabbed her at a park, walked her to your car, told her you'd help her find her lost dog. A jogger intervened before you could drive away. That was a misunderstanding. You said the same thing then that you're saying now. She followed me, I was helping. Chen leaned forward. It's your pattern, isn't it? Find vulnerable moments, isolated children pretend to be helpful. How many, Leonard? How many before Emma? Walsh put a hand on Voss's arm. Don't answer that. Chen pulled out photos from the box, the newspaper clippings, the notebook entries. We found your collection, your research. You've been watching children for years. For the first time, Voss's composure cracked. His jaw tightened. That doesn't prove anything. People collect news stories. People don't write detailed notes about when children play outside unsupervised. People don't map out birthday parties and family schedules. Chen slid Emma's hospital photo across the table. This is Emma Rodriguez, 3 years old. You took her from her family's backyard, carried her 2 miles into the woods, and left her to die of exposure. I didn't leave her to die. She followed me and I got lost and I panicked. Stop, Walsh grabbed his arm harder. Leonard, do not say another word. But Voss was spiraling now, his carefully constructed story falling apart. I was going to come back for her. I heard the search parties and I got scared. I thought if I left, someone would find her quickly. I didn't mean to traumatize her, didn't mean to nearly kill her, or didn't mean to get caught. Chen's voice was steel. Your DNA was on her jacket, Leonard. Your hair was in your van, her hair was in your van. We have you on security footage taking her. We have your notebook with premeditation written all over it. And we have Emma's testimony about what you told her, that the woods keep secrets, that monsters eat little girls who tell. You tried to scare a 3-year-old into silence. Voss's face had gone gray. His hands shook despite the cuffs. Chen stood. Leonard Voss, you're being charged with kidnapping in the first degree under Oregon Revised Statute 163.235. That's a Measure 11 offense. Mandatory minimum sentence of 70 months. No early release. No good behavior reductions. 70 months minimum. She paused at the door. And that's if the prosecutor goes easy on you. If they add aggravating circumstances, premeditation, targeting a child under 6, prior similar conduct, you could be looking at 25 years. You'll die in prison. The news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Leonard Voss, the maintenance man who fixed leaky faucets, who helped Mrs. Chen carry groceries, who always waved at kids playing, was a predator. Neighbors who'd seen him dozens of times suddenly remembered odd moments, how he always seemed to be around when school let out, how he'd linger near playgrounds during his lunch break, how he'd volunteered to help at the community center's Halloween party last year. 3 more families came forward to police. Their children, ages 4, 6, and 7, described a man matching Voss's description who'd approached them in various locations over the past 18 months. One at a grocery store, offering to help find her mommy. One at a park, saying he had puppies in his van. One outside an elementary school, claiming to be a friend of the family. All had been scared away or interrupted before Voss could take them anywhere. But the pattern was unmistakable. Detective Webb compiled the reports, creating a timeline that stretched back years. He's been escalating. The approaches were getting bolder. Emma was the first one he actually managed to take. Chen nodded grimly. And if we hadn't found her in time, she wouldn't have been the last. The arraignment was scheduled for the following Monday. Multnomah County Courthouse, Judge Patricia Winters presiding. The prosecution would be handled by Senior Deputy District Attorney Thomas Brennan, a legend in the Portland legal community. 20 years of experience, an 87% conviction rate on violent crimes, and a particular passion for cases involving child victims. Brennan sat in his office, reviewing the evidence file, his reading glasses perched on his nose. The case was strong, forensically airtight, multiple witnesses, clear premeditation. But Brennan had learned never to be overconfident. Defense attorneys could be creative, juries unpredictable. His biggest concern wasn't the evidence, it was Emma herself. Oregon law allowed children of any age to testify if deemed competent by the court, but Emma was 3. She'd barely speak to anyone except her mother and Dr. Patel. The trauma of testifying, being questioned by defense attorneys, having to recount the worst day of her life in front of strangers, could re-traumatize her. Brennan could build a case without her testimony. The physical evidence was damning, but juries liked to hear from victims. They needed to see the human cost. A 3-year-old's voice carried weight that forensic reports couldn't match. His phone rang. It was Dr. Patel. "Mr. Brennan, I've been working with Emma. She's making progress, but she's not ready to testify. The courtroom environment would be overwhelming. The presence of her abductor would be traumatic. I can't recommend putting her on the stand." Brennan leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "Then we go without her. It'll be harder, but we can do it." "There might be another way," Dr. Patel said slowly. "Emma has formed an attachment to Officer Morrison's dog, Rex. She talks about him constantly. She's drawn pictures of him. In our sessions, when I mention Rex, she opens up. She says she felt safe when Rex was there." "What are you suggesting?" "The dog. If Rex could be present during her testimony, if that's even something we could arrange, Emma might be able to testify. It's unconventional, but trauma-informed testimony protocols are evolving. Some jurisdictions allow support animals." Brennan sat forward, his mind racing through legal precedents, courtroom procedures, potential objections. "Let me research this. If there's a way to make it happen, I'll find it." After hanging up, Brennan pulled up case law on his computer. Therapy dogs in courtrooms weren't unprecedented. Some courts allowed them for child witnesses. But would Judge Winters permit it? Would the defense claim it was prejudicial? Outside his window, Portland's skyline glittered in the evening light. Somewhere out there, Emma Rodriguez was trying to rebuild her shattered sense of safety. And Leonard Voss sat in a jail cell, probably already crafting his next lie. Brennan opened a fresh legal pad and began drafting a motion. If Emma could find her voice with Rex beside her, then by God, he'd get that dog into the courtroom. Justice demanded nothing less. 6 weeks after her rescue, Emma Rodriguez sat cross-legged on the floor of Dr. Lisa Patel's office, surrounded by dolls, toy cars, and a miniature house. The play therapy room was designed to feel safe, soft lighting, pastel walls, stuffed animals in every corner. But Emma barely touched the toys anymore. She was building something. Dr. Patel watched from her chair, notebook balanced on her knee, as Emma carefully arranged small figurines. A girl doll, trees made from blocks, a man figure which Emma placed far away from the others, and a toy dog, a German shepherd that Emma's parents had bought her after she'd asked for it repeatedly. "Can you tell me about your scene, Emma?" Dr. Patel asked softly. Emma's small fingers moved the girl doll through the block trees. "She's lost. The bad man took her and left her. She's scared." The girl doll fell over. "She's cold. She can't find her mommy." "What happens next?" Emma picked up the toy dog. Her face transformed, the tension in her small shoulders eased, and for the first time in the session she smiled. "The nice dog comes. He finds her. He's warm. He tells her it's okay." "Dogs can't talk, sweetie." "Rex can," Emma said with absolute certainty. "He told me I was safe. He said he wouldn't let anything bad happen." Dr. Patel made a note. Emma's attachment to Rex had become central to her recovery. In their twice-weekly sessions, Emma wouldn't discuss the abduction unless the toy dog was present. She slept with a stuffed German shepherd. She'd made her parents play videos of police dogs on repeat until they'd memorized every bark and tail wag. "Emma, do you remember what we talked about last time? About the courtroom?" Emma's smile vanished. She clutched the toy dog to her chest. "The place where the bad man will be." Yes, some people, a judge, some lawyers, they need to hear what happened. They need you to tell them about that day. No, Emma shook her head violently. He said bad things happen if I tell. He said monsters. There are no monsters, sweetheart, and Rex found you. He kept you safe from anything bad, remember. Emma's grip on the toy dog loosened slightly. Rex is stronger than monsters. Exactly, and Emma, what if Rex could be there? In the courtroom with you, would that help? Emma's eyes widened. Real Rex, not toy Rex. Real Rex, Officer Morrison's partner. He might be able to sit right next to you while you talk. For the first time in weeks, genuine hope flickered across Emma's face. Rex would protect me from the bad man. Rex and Officer Morrison and your mommy and many other people. You'd be very safe. Emma considered this, her 3-year-old brain processing possibilities that no child should have to contemplate. Finally, she nodded. If Rex comes, I can be brave. Dr. Patel felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away and smiled. You're already brave, Emma, so very brave. District Attorney Thomas Brennan stood before Judge Patricia Winters in her chambers, a stack of legal precedents under his arm and determination etched into every line of his face. Defense Attorney Jennifer Walsh sat across from him, her expression skeptical. Your Honor, Brennan began, I'm requesting permission for a certified service dog to be present during the testimony of our key witness, Emma Rodriguez. Judge Winters, a stern woman in her early 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, looked up from the brief Brennan had filed. Counselor, this is highly unusual. You're asking me to allow an animal in my courtroom during testimony. Not just any animal, Your Honor. Rex is a certified police K-9 with 5 years of service. More importantly, he's the dog who found Emma. Dr. Lisa Patel, the child psychologist treating Emma, has submitted an affidavit stating that Emma cannot reliably testify without Rex's presence due to trauma-related anxiety. Walsh stood. Your Honor, this is prejudicial to my client. A police dog in the courtroom creates a law enforcement presence that could unduly influence the jury. It suggests guilt by association. The dog would be in civilian mode, not working mode, Brennan countered. No vest, no equipment. Simply a support animal for a traumatized child witness. Courts in 17 other jurisdictions have allowed similar accommodations. Judge Winters flipped through the precedents Brennan had provided. State v. Devon, Connecticut, 2019. In Ray Nicole T., California, 2021. These cases do show a trend toward trauma-informed testimony protocols. She looked at Walsh. Ms. Walsh, your client is accused of kidnapping a 3-year-old child. That child is now terrified to the point of being unable to speak about her ordeal without the presence of the animal that rescued her. Are you really going to argue that your client's rights supersede this child's ability to be heard? Walsh's jaw tightened. I'm arguing for a fair trial, Your Honor. And I'm arguing for justice, Brennan shot back. Emma Rodriguez is 3 years old. She's our only eyewitness to her own kidnapping. Without her testimony, we're relying solely on forensic evidence. The jury needs to hear from her, and she needs support to do that. Denying this accommodation effectively silences a child victim. Judge Winters was silent for a long moment, her fingers steepled under her chin. Finally, she spoke. Here's my ruling. I'll allow the dog to be present during testimony under strict conditions. Rex will remain calm and still. No interaction with the jury. If at any point the dog becomes disruptive, he's removed immediately. Additionally, I'll give the jury explicit instructions that the dog's presence is a trauma accommodation and bears no relation to the defendant's guilt or innocence. Ms. Walsh, you may object for the record, but my decision stands. Walsh nodded curtly. Noted for the record, Your Honor, we object. Your objection is noted. Mr. Brennan, coordinate with Dr. Patel and Officer Morrison. I want that child as comfortable as possible. But Counselor, Judge Winters fixed him with a hard stare. If this backfires, if Emma can't testify even with the dog, we proceed without her. Understood. Understood, Your Honor, thank you. 3 days before the trial, Officer Jake Morrison brought Rex to the Rodriguez home for a practice session. Maria opened the door, her eyes red-rimmed from weeks of crying and sleepless nights. Officer Morrison, thank you for coming. Call me Jake, please. How's Emma doing? Better, not great, but better. Dr. Patel has been wonderful, and Emma, Maria's voice caught. Emma talks about Rex constantly. You and your partner saved her life. Morrison knelt down as Emma appeared from behind her mother's legs, clutching her stuffed German shepherd. When she saw Rex, her face lit up like sunrise. Rex, you came. Rex's tail wagged, his ears perked forward. Morrison gave him a subtle hand signal, and Rex moved forward slowly, carefully, letting Emma approach at her own pace. Emma dropped her stuffed toy and wrapped her small arms around Rex's neck. The dog stood perfectly still, only his tail moving, his warm brown eyes gentle. Emma buried her face in his fur. He remembers me, she whispered. Of course he does, Morrison said, his voice thick with emotion. Rex never forgets someone he's rescued. For the next hour, Dr. Patel worked with Emma in the living room while Rex lay beside her. They practiced courtroom with chairs arranged like a witness stand. Emma sat with Rex at her feet, and Dr. Patel asked gentle questions. Can you tell me what happened the day you went missing? Emma's hand reached down, fingers tangling in Rex's fur. The bad man came to my party. What did he look like? Tall brown hair, he smiled, but his eyes were scary. Emma's voice wavered. Rex shifted slightly, pressing his body against her leg. She steadied. He said Mommy said I could go with him, but it was a lie. What happened then? He took my hand. We walked far, my feet hurt. I asked to go home and he said not yet. Tears rolled down Emma's cheeks, but she kept talking. Then he heard people calling me. He got scared. He left me in the woods and said stay quiet or the monsters would get me. Maria sobbed quietly in the corner. Carlos held her, his own face wet. But the monsters didn't get you, Dr. Patel prompted. Emma smiled through her tears, hugging Rex. No, because Rex found me. Rex is braver than any monster. Morrison couldn't help himself. He reached over and stroked Rex's head. The dog had saved 12 people in his career, but Morrison had never seen him bond with someone like this. Dr. Patel looked at Morrison and nodded. Emma could do this. With Rex beside her, she could testify. The night before the trial, Brennan sat in his office reviewing his opening statement. The evidence was overwhelming. Voss's DNA on Emma's clothing, Emma's hair in his van, the notebook full of surveillance notes, security footage, witness statements. But the moment that would define this trial, the moment the jury would remember, would be when Emma Rodriguez took the stand. A 3-year-old girl, traumatized beyond measure, finding her voice with a hero dog by her side. Brennan had tried over 200 cases. He'd put away murderers, rapists, violent criminals of every stripe. But this case felt different. Emma wasn't just a witness, she was a symbol. A child who refused to be silenced, even when a monster tried to steal her voice. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Patel, Emma is ready, see you tomorrow. Brennan closed his files, took off his glasses, and stared at the framed photo on his desk. His own daughter, now 20, smiling at her college graduation. He thought about what he would want if she'd been Emma. What any parent would want. Justice, yes, but also validation. Proof that their child's voice mattered. Tomorrow, Emma Rodriguez would have that chance. And Leonard Voss would finally face the consequences of his evil. The Multnomah County Courthouse stood imposing against the gray Portland sky, its columns and stone facade projecting authority and permanence. Inside Courtroom 4B, every seat was filled. Journalists lined the back row, notebooks ready. Victim advocates whispered encouragement to the Rodriguez family. And at the defense table, Leonard Voss sat in a pressed suit, his expression carefully neutral, as if this were a minor inconvenience rather than a trial that would determine the rest of his life. Judge Patricia Winters entered, her black robe flowing behind her. "All rise." The bailiff's voice rang out. "The State of Oregon versus Leonard Michael Voss, case number CR20248847. Charges: kidnapping in the first degree." Trial day 3 had arrived. The first 2 days had been a prosecutorial masterclass. D.A. Brennan had methodically built his case. Security footage showing Voss walking with Emma, forensic evidence from his van, the damning notebook full of surveillance notes. Detective Chen had testified about finding Emma's hair fibers. The forensic technician had explained the DNA matches with clinical precision. But everyone in the courtroom knew the real moment. The testimony everyone was waiting for was today. Officer Jake Morrison took the stand wearing his dress uniform, his posture military straight. Brennan stood at the podium. "Officer Morrison, can you describe your role in this case?" "Yes, sir. I'm a K-9 handler with Portland Police Department. On October 15th, I responded to a missing child call with my partner Rex." "And can you describe what happened during the search?" Morrison's testimony was clear and compelling. He described Rex picking up Emma's scent, tracking for over 2 miles, the desperate race against darkness and dropping temperatures. His voice grew thick with emotion when he described finding Emma wedged between logs in the ravine, hypothermic and barely conscious. "Without Rex's tracking abilities, we might not have found Emma in time. The area was vast, heavily wooded, and night was falling." "Your Honor," Brennan said, "I'd like to request that Rex be brought into the courtroom so the jury can understand the scope of his training and capabilities." Jennifer Walsh stood immediately. "Objection. We've already discussed the dog's presence." "For the witness's testimony only, as agreed," Judge Winters said. "Bailiff, you may bring in the dog." The courtroom doors opened. Morrison's face lit up as Rex entered, led by another K-9 officer. The German Shepherd wore no vest, no equipment, just a simple collar. He moved with calm dignity, his eyes scanning the room professionally. In the gallery, Emma Rodriguez sat between her parents in the 3rd row. She'd been brought to observe as part of her therapy. Dr. Patel believed seeing the good people who saved her might help her healing. She wasn't scheduled to testify. The judge had ultimately decided Emma was too young, too traumatized. The case would proceed on physical evidence alone. But the moment Rex entered the courtroom, everything changed. Emma's entire body went rigid. Her eyes, which had been downcast and fearful, suddenly blazed with recognition, and something else, something fierce and brave that had been buried under layers of trauma for 6 weeks. She stood up on her seat. "Emma, sit down," Maria whispered urgently, reaching for her daughter. But Emma wasn't listening. Her small hand shot out, finger pointing directly at Rex, her voice ringing out across the silent courtroom with a clarity that made everyone freeze. "That's him, that's the nice dog." Judge Winters banged her gavel. "Order." But Emma wasn't finished. Her words tumbled out in a torrent, loud and clear, 3-year-old pronunciation, making some words run together but her meaning unmistakable. "He found me when I was scared and cold. He licked my face and stayed with me. He's the hero dog who saved me from the woods." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Morrison's eyes welled with tears. Rex's ears perked forward and he whined softly, recognizing Emma's voice. Then Emma's finger swung like an accusation, pointing directly at Leonard Voss. "And that's the bad man." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. "That's the man who took me away." Emma's voice cracked but didn't break. "He said he knew my mommy. He said come see something special, but he lied. He took me far away and my feet hurt and I cried and he didn't care." Voss's face drained of all color. His hands gripped the defense table, knuckles white. Jennifer Walsh shot to her feet. "Your Honor, this child hasn't been sworn in, this is." Judge Winters raised her hand for silence, but her eyes were on Emma, watching the tiny girl in the gallery trembling but refusing to sit down, refusing to be quiet. "He left me in the scary woods," Emma continued, tears streaming down her face. "He said don't tell or bad things happen. He said monsters would get me. But Rex came. Rex isn't scared of monsters. Rex is good and that man is bad." Maria was sobbing, trying to hold Emma, but Emma squirmed free, standing taller on the bench seat. "I was so scared," Emma said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire courtroom. "I thought I would never see Mommy again. I thought the monsters would eat me like he said. But then I heard barking and Rex came, and he was warm and he wasn't a monster. He saved me." Emma looked at Rex, and the dog, sensing something profound, pulled against his handler's lead. The officer looked at Judge Winters, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Rex moved forward slowly, deliberately, until he stood at the edge of the gallery. Emma climbed down from the bench and walked to him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. "The bad man said tell secrets and monsters come," Emma said into Rex's fur. "But Rex is here, so I can tell now. Rex is stronger than the bad man's lies." Judge Winters had tears in her eyes as she banged her gavel. "We'll take a 15-minute recess. Mr. Brennan, Ms. Walsh, my chambers, now." As the courtroom erupted in controlled chaos, journalists frantically typing, spectators whispering, Voss sat frozen at the defense table, his carefully constructed composure shattered. His attorney leaned in, speaking urgently, but Voss just stared at Emma, at the little girl he'd tried to silence, who'd found her voice in the presence of the dog who'd saved her. Morrison stood at attention, watching Emma hold Rex, and felt something break and heal simultaneously in his chest. In 5 years of partnership, he'd never been more proud of his partner. Rex had done more than save Emma's life. He'd given her the courage to reclaim it. Maria and Carlos reached their daughter, and the three of them formed a circle around Rex, holding each other, crying together. Dr. Patel appeared from the back of the courtroom, her professional composure cracking as she witnessed what she'd hoped for but never quite believed would happen. Emma had found her voice. And in a courtroom full of lawyers, judges, and carefully prepared testimony, it was a 3-year-old child and a German shepherd who just delivered the most powerful evidence of all. The truth, spoken without fear, because a hero dog had taught a little girl that she was braver than any monster. In the hallway outside the courtroom, a court reporter muttered to her colleague, "20 years I've been doing this job. I've never seen anything like that." Her colleague wiped her eyes. "Nobody has, nobody ever will again." Inside Judge Winters' chambers, the real legal battle was just beginning. But outside in the courtroom, justice had already spoken. And it had spoken in the voice of a child who refused to stay silent. Judge Patricia Winters' chambers felt smaller with 5 people crowded inside. D.A. Thomas Brennan stood on one side of her massive oak desk, defense attorney Jennifer Walsh on the other, both arguing simultaneously until the judge raised her hand. "Enough, one at a time," she pointed at Brennan. "You first." "Your Honor, what just happened in that courtroom was spontaneous, unrehearsed, and compelling testimony from a credible witness. Emma Rodriguez just identified her abductor in open court." "She's 3 years old," Walsh interrupted. "She hasn't been sworn in. She hasn't been deemed competent to testify. This is a violation of every procedural rule." "Ms. Walsh," I said one at a time. Judge Winters' voice could have frozen lava. She turned to Brennan. "Continue." Emma's outburst demonstrates exactly what Dr. Patel predicted. In the presence of Rex, the dog who saved her, Emma can speak about her trauma. That spontaneous statement was more authentic than any coached testimony could ever be. "I'm formally requesting permission to have Emma testify, properly sworn in, formally on the record, with Rex present as her support animal. Walsh's face flushed red. "Your Honor, allowing this child to testify under these emotionally charged circumstances is prejudicial. The jury just witnessed a theatrical outburst that—" "Theatrical," Brennan's voice rose. "A traumatized 3-year-old finding the courage to identify her kidnapper is theatrical." "Gentlemen, Ms. Walsh." Judge Winters removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. She'd been on the bench for 18 years. She'd seen false confessions, lying witnesses, contaminated evidence. But she'd also developed an instinct for truth, and what she'd witnessed in that courtroom felt like the purest truth she'd ever seen. "Here's my ruling," she said finally. "I'm calling a recess for the remainder of today and tomorrow. Mr. Brennan, you'll work with Dr. Patel to prepare Emma for formal testimony. Ms. Walsh, you'll have the opportunity to voir dire Emma in my chambers first. Assess her competency yourself. If I determine she's competent and can testify reliably, we proceed. If not, her courtroom statement goes on the record as an outburst and nothing more. The jury will be instructed accordingly." "Your Honor," Walsh began. "My decision is final. We reconvene Friday morning, 9 a.m. Dismissed." Thursday afternoon, Emma sat in a small conference room adjacent to the courthouse, designed specifically for child witnesses. The walls were painted soft blue, toys lined shelves, but Emma wasn't playing. She sat in a child-sized chair with Rex lying at her feet, his warm presence the anchor keeping her steady. Officer Morrison stood in the corner, and Dr. Patel sat nearby. D.A. Brennan knelt in front of Emma, speaking gently. "Emma, tomorrow you're going to sit in a special chair and tell the judge and some other people what happened. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, her fingers twisted in Rex's fur. "Some people are going to ask you questions. One of them is Ms. Walsh. She works for the bad man. She might ask questions that seem confusing or make you feel upset. But you just tell the truth, okay? Just what you remember." "Will Rex stay with me?" "The whole time," Morrison confirmed. "I promise." Emma took a deep breath. "Okay, I can be brave if Rex is there." Maria Rodriguez watched from the doorway, her husband's arm around her. She'd aged 10 years in 6 weeks. But watching her daughter find courage, watching her refuse to be a victim, Maria felt something she hadn't felt since that terrible October day. Hope. Friday morning arrived cold and gray, rain pattering against the courthouse windows. The gallery filled early, every seat claimed by 9 a.m. The media presence had tripled after word of Emma's outburst spread. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a story about courage. Judge Winters took the bench. "Bring in the witness." The side door opened. Emma entered wearing a purple dress her grandmother had made, her dark curls pulled back with butterfly clips. She walked slowly, Dr. Patel on one side, Officer Morrison and Rex on the other. Rex moved with careful deliberation, matching Emma's pace perfectly. A child-sized chair had been placed in the witness box, with space for Rex to lie beside it. Morrison helped Emma up, and Rex settled at her feet, his chin resting on his paws, his eyes alert. The bailiff approached with a picture book. "Emma, do you promise to tell the truth?" Emma's voice was small but clear. "Yes." "Do you know what happens if you don't tell the truth?" "It's bad, like lying is bad. Mommy says always tell the truth." Judge Winters nodded. "That's exactly right, Emma. Just tell us the truth and you'll do great." Jennifer Walsh approached first, her expression carefully neutral. She'd spent the previous day in chambers questioning Emma, trying to find inconsistencies, evidence of coaching. She'd found none. Emma's story never wavered. The bad man took her, left her, Rex found her. But Walsh had a job to do. "Emma, do you remember me? We talked yesterday." Emma nodded, her hand reaching down to touch Rex. "Emma, you said a man took you from your yard. Are you sure your mommy didn't just lose track of you and you wandered off?" "No, the man took my hand. He said mommy said it's okay, but it wasn't okay." How do you know he was a bad man? Maybe he was trying to help you." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "Because he left me where it's scary. Because he said don't tell or monsters come. Good people don't say that. Rex didn't say that. Rex said," she paused, knowing dogs don't talk but feeling it anyway. "Rex said I'm safe now." Walsh pressed on, trying different angles, but Emma's story remained consistent. Finally, Walsh sat down, knowing she'd got nowhere. D.A. Brennan approached, his expression gentle. "Emma, can you point to the man who took you that day?" Without hesitation, Emma pointed at Leonard Voss, that man in the black suit. "What did he do?" And Emma told her story, haltingly at times, with pauses to pet Rex, with tears that Dr. Patel gently wiped away, but she told it. The candy offered, the lie about Mommy, the long walk that hurt her feet, the woods that got darker and scarier, his warning about monsters and secrets. "He said if I tell, bad things happen. He said I have to keep the secret forever." Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "But I was so cold, and I called for Mommy, but nobody came. I thought I would die like the flowers do when it's cold." Several jurors were crying openly now. "Then what happened?" Emma's face transformed, fear replaced by joy. "I heard barking, and Rex came running, and he found me, and he was so warm, and he licked my face, and Officer Jake came and picked me up, and they took me to Mommy." She looked down at Rex with pure love. "Rex saved me from the woods. Rex saved me from the bad man's lies." Brennan let that statement hang in the air. Then softly, "Are you scared anymore, Emma?" Emma considered this. "Sometimes, at night. But then I remember Rex is real and he's stronger than the bad man, and I'm not alone anymore." "No more questions, Your Honor." The courtroom was silent, except for muffled sobs and the quiet sound of Rex's breathing. Judge Winters called a recess, and as Emma was helped down from the witness box, she hugged Rex fiercely. Morrison knelt beside them both, and for a moment the three of them formed a perfect circle, rescuer, rescued, and the bond between them. In the gallery, Maria collapsed into her husband's arms, crying tears of pride and pain. At the defense table, Leonard Voss stared at his hands. His lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently about plea deals, about cutting losses, but Voss seemed to have shrunk, his arrogance deflated by the weight of a 3-year-old's truth. Jennifer Walsh gathered her files, knowing the case was over. She'd seen enough trials to recognize the moment when a jury's mind is made up. Emma's testimony, simple, honest, devastating, had sealed it. Outside in the hallway, journalists rushed to file stories. 3-year-old testifies against kidnapper. Hero dog helps child find her voice. The testimony that changed everything. But inside Courtroom 4B, the real story was simpler and more profound. A little girl had been stolen, silenced, abandoned. And with a hero dog beside her, she'd reclaimed her voice and used it to ensure justice prevailed. The truth, spoken by the smallest voice in the room, had roared louder than any legal argument ever could. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and 17 minutes. In those 4 hours, Maria Rodriguez paced the courthouse hallway until her feet ached. Carlos sat with his head in his hands, praying in Spanish under his breath. Emma colored in the victim services room with Dr. Patel, drawing pictures of Rex with purple crayon, blissfully unaware that 12 strangers were deciding whether her truth was enough. D.A. Thomas Brennan stood at the window of the prosecutor's office, watching rain streak down the glass, mentally reviewing every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every moment of Emma's testimony. In 20 years, he'd never felt this invested in a verdict. At 3:47 p.m., the bailiff's radio crackled. "Jury's back." The courthouse erupted into controlled chaos, journalists scrambling for seats, victim advocates gathering the Rodriguez family, officers taking positions. Within 15 minutes, Courtroom 4B was packed to capacity. Judge Winters took the bench, Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreperson, a middle-aged woman with steel gray hair, stood. We have, Your Honor. In the matter of the state of Oregon versus Leonard Michael Voss, on the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, how do you find? The foreperson's voice was steady, clear, and final. We find the defendant guilty. The courtroom exploded. Maria's scream of relief cut through the noise. Carlos buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. Spectators erupted in applause until Judge Winters's gavel restored order. At the defense table, Leonard Voss showed no emotion. His face remained blank, empty, as if his soul had already evacuated his body. Jennifer Walsh placed a hand on his shoulder, a perfunctory gesture, nothing more. Judge Winters polled each juror individually. All 12 confirmed, guilty. Mr. Voss, you will remain in custody pending sentencing. Sentencing hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. This court is adjourned. As Voss was led away in handcuffs, he passed within feet of the Rodriguez family. Maria stood, meeting his eyes with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. You try to break her, Maria said, her voice shaking but fierce. But she's stronger than you. She'll always be stronger than you. Voss looked away. 3 weeks later, the same courtroom filled for sentencing. Emma wasn't present. Dr. Patel had advised against it, but her impact filled every corner of the room. Judge Winters reviewed the pre-sentence investigation, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Mr. Voss, you have been convicted of kidnapping in the first degree. Under Oregon's Measure 11 sentencing guidelines, this carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 70 months, approximately 5 years and 10 months in prison. She looked up, her eyes hard as flint. However, I have the discretion to impose additional time based on aggravating factors. And Mr. Voss, the aggravating factors in your case are substantial. Walsh stood. Your Honor, my client has no prior violent felony convictions. Sit down, Ms. Walsh. Judge Winters's voice could have cut glass. Your client has a prior conviction for unlawful restraint of a minor. He kept a notebook documenting surveillance of multiple children. He showed premeditation, planning, and complete disregard for a child's life when he abandoned Emma Rodriguez in those woods. Most significantly, he attempted to silence his victim through psychological manipulation, telling a 3-year-old that monsters would kill her if she told the truth. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Voss, do you have anything to say? Voss stood slowly. For the first time since his arrest, emotion crossed his face, not remorse but resentment. That little girl has an active imagination. I made a mistake, got lost, panicked. Enough, Judge Winters cut him off. Even now you show no accountability, no remorse, no recognition of the harm you've caused. The court finds multiple aggravating circumstances. I hereby sentence you to 70 months on the base charge plus an additional 60 months for aggravating factors. Total sentence, 130 months, 10 years and 10 months in the Oregon Department of Corrections. No early release. No reduction for good behavior under Measure 11 guidelines. You will serve at least 90% of this sentence. The gavel fell like thunder. Maria collapsed against Carlos, sobbing with relief. 10 years. Emma would be 13 when Voss got out. Old enough to understand, old enough to have healed. As Voss was led away, Judge Winters added one final statement. Let the record show that this court commends the bravery of Emma Rodriguez, the dedication of Detective Sarah Chen and District Attorney Thomas Brennan, and the extraordinary service of Officer Jake Morrison and his K-9 partner, Rex. This case represents justice at its finest, when the smallest voice is amplified by the courage of heroes. 2 months later, on a sunny December morning, Portland Police Bureau held a special ceremony in front of City Hall. Reporters lined the steps. The mayor stood at a podium. And in front of everyone, Officer Jake Morrison stood at attention beside Rex, who wore his formal K-9 uniform. for exceptional service in the rescue of Emma Rodriguez and 12 other successful search and rescue operations. Portland Police Bureau awards K9 Rex the Medal of Valor, the highest honor we can bestow. The police chief placed a medal around Rex's neck. The crowd erupted in applause. Rex's tail wagged slightly, the closest he ever came to breaking protocol. Emma Rodriguez, now 4 years old and infinitely braver than the scared little girl from October, walked forward with her parents. She carried a card she'd made herself, construction paper covered in crayon drawings of a German shepherd with a cape. "For Rex," she said, handing it to Morrison, "because he's a superhero." Morrison knelt down, his eyes misty. "Thank you, Emma." Emma hugged Rex, burying her face in his fur like she'd done that day in the courtroom. "You saved me. Now I'm going to save other kids too. When I grow up, I'm going to be a police officer with a dog just like you." Morrison glanced at his chief, who was openly wiping his eyes. "I think that's a wonderful idea." That afternoon, the Rodriguez family held a small gathering at their home, the same backyard where Emma had disappeared, now reclaimed as a place of joy. They'd installed a new fence, this one with 3 locks, but Emma wasn't afraid anymore. She ran through the grass with a German shepherd puppy named Hero, Rex's cousin from the same breeding program, a gift from the K9 unit. The puppy tumbled after her, all oversized paws and floppy ears, while adults watched from the patio. Officer Morrison and Rex were there, off-duty and relaxed. Detective Chen, D.A. Brennan, Dr. Patel, the people who'd fought for Emma, who'd given her justice and helped her heal. "Thank you," Maria said to Morrison, squeezing his hand. "You gave me my daughter back." "Rex did the hard part," Morrison said, stroking his partner's head. "I just followed where he led." "No," Maria insisted. "You both did something impossible. You found her, you saved her, and you helped her find her voice." As the sun set over Portland, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Emma ran to her mother, breathless and laughing. "Mommy, did you see? Hero can almost catch me." "I saw, Mija, you're so fast." Emma grinned, then grew serious. "Mommy, I'm not scared anymore. The bad man is gone and Rex is here and I'm brave now." Maria pulled her daughter close, tears streaming down her face. "You've always been brave, my love, always." In the years that followed, Emma's case became landmark precedent in Oregon. Courts across the state began allowing support animals for traumatized child witnesses. The Emma Protocol was born, trauma-informed testimony procedures that prioritized healing while ensuring justice. The Rodriguez family established the Rex Foundation, raising money for K9 units across the Pacific Northwest. They funded equipment, training, and veterinary care for working dogs. Emma thrived. The nightmares faded. She excelled in school. And every year on the anniversary of her rescue, she visited Morrison and Rex, bringing homemade dog treats and drawings. Leonard Voss served his sentence at Oregon State Penitentiary. In year 7, he was attacked by another inmate who'd read about his crime. He survived, but spent the remainder of his sentence in protective custody, alone, isolated, forgotten. Meanwhile, Emma Rodriguez grew up surrounded by love, protected by heroes, and empowered by the knowledge that she'd used her voice to ensure justice prevailed. On her 13th birthday, Emma received her first K9 training manual and a letter from Officer Morrison, now retired. "Dear Emma, you once told me you'd be a police officer with a dog just like Rex. I believe you will be. Rex and I are proud of you then, now, and always. Stay brave, stay strong. And remember, the smallest voices can roar the loudest. Love, Jake and Rex." Emma placed the letter in a frame beside her bed, next to the Medal of Valor she'd been allowed to keep, and smiled. Justice had been served, healing had happened. And a little girl who'd once been lost in dark woods had found her way home, not just to her family, but to herself. The end.